Righty guys, welcome back to another review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Vortex Diamondback Tactical 4-16 by 44. Before we get into that, t-shirts are available, hit the link in the description. That's not a Vortex. Better change that out. For those of you who haven't seen that mounting system, that is called a pivot mount. There's a few different countries make them. These ones are Rusan, EAW also make them, and there's a few other companies. Very, very popular in Europe. Don't know why, but they haven't really caught on as much in America or here. And I don't know why, because it's a fantastic system. Quicker than your normal QDs and retains 100% zero. And obviously, as you see there, I can have multiple sights for the same rifle. If you want to see a video on pivot mounts, leave a comment in the comments box below and I will get around to it because they're pretty fucking cool. Let us boogaloo till we puke. Alright, so let's go on with the Vortex. Now, I got this sight for this weapon because I was running this one for a long time, which is a Leupold. Now, it's only got a 33mm objective lens, and in low light, I found that it wasn't quite cutting the mustard. Nothing else is wrong with that sight. It's a very, very good sight, and I still use it for a lot of stuff. However, I wanted something where I could get a lot more light into my weapon and also see what I could do reaching out and shooting a little bit further. I got this particular sight mainly because I wanted just to check it out. I'll just be straight up and say this sight is not well suited for hunting. And I'll tell you why once we go into the cons of the sight. But we'll start on the good notes, we'll go through the positives. So, fuck me, it is hot as fuck in here. Alright, so the positives on the Vortex Diamondback Tactical. One positive for me is it's in milliradian, because I don't like trying to figure things out in fucking inches and MOA and shit. It just does my head in because, you know, I'm Australian and I've grown up with the metric system like the rest of the world. So having something in mils just works better for my brain. There's nothing wrong with having an MOA sight, it's just my personal preference is mils if I can get it. Another reason why I picked it was because of the reticle pattern inside. I wanted, you know, something with a few more points to be able to do holdovers and aim-offs and shit like that. Another thing that I wanted when I was initially looking for a sight for this rifle was a first focal plane sight because I didn't have one and I really wanted to try one out and just, you know, I'd never used a first focal plane before. Well, I mean, I had, but I'd never owned one. You know, that was one reason why I did that. All right, continuing on with the pros of this sight. Let's start with, we'll start with all the dials and shit. Ring to change your magnification is very, very smooth. It's not, some sights, you know, you're really got a reef on it. This one you can, you know, pretty quickly and easily change your zoom setting. So that's pretty good. That's definitely a plus for this one. It does have a side focus for your parallax. So that is definitely a pro that it has it. However, it can be a con, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. One thing that's a massive pro for this sight, and I'm probably going to assume the rest of the Vortex line, is their durability. So I was out in a hunt with a mate of mine down this massive gully, and it was pretty fucking steep, and I took a bit of a tumble and pretty much threw my rifle because it was pretty spectacular. And what I did was I actually gouged the shit out of my stock and also dinted in on my ejective bell. It's a pretty substantial dint. I also, you know, stuffed up the back here a little bit as well on the eyepiece. Now, after that hunt, went and checked my zero, and my zero was 100% bang on. And that's pretty good. That says a lot about, you know, their lineup of sights as a whole and how they're constructed. So yeah, pretty impressed with that. That's you don't get that a lot. But it's not just, you know, it's not just your sight that is the thing that's going to hold zero. Most of the time, a lot of these sights are built pretty well. A lot of the time, it's actually your rings that will let you down. If you have subpar rings, and you drop your rifle, you're more than likely not going to be zeroed because, you know, shit rings are shit. So that's another plus for my old Rusans here. That's our pluses, our pros out of the way. Let's crack on with a couple of cons. One con for this is it's heavy. I'm going to whack the weight of it up here. It is a fairly hefty sight, and it's not even really, you know, that big. I found when I first swapped over, it took me a while to get used to carrying that extra weight, and it's only, you know, X amount of grams, whatever it is, bigger than my other sight. But you definitely do feel, especially when you're walking, you know, 15, 20K, you are going to feel that weight. All right, the weight is contributed to the fact that it's a 30mm tube. The other Vortex is like a friend of mine's got a Crossfire, and it's a lot lighter because it is a 1-inch tube. So with a 30mm tube, you do get a little bit more weight, but then obviously you get bigger lenses and all that sort of shit. So pros and cons there. Another thing that is a massive con for this is the exposed turrets. And that is why I don't think that this is very well suited for hunters. There was a couple of instances where I had actually knocked my turrets off zero, hadn't noticed, and then missed a target. Nobody wants that. That's your worst nightmare, is, you know, thinking I'm going to plug this, bang, and then it fucking goes somewhere else. Worst nightmare as a hunter. That was a massive con, the fact that you can't lock these turrets in. One thing as well, I'll give you a close-up, is the zeros, and actually any of the graticals really, don't actually line up with the index marker. It's not a massive deal, but it does fuck with my OCD a little bit, because I want it to be bang on that line. So for me to know that I'm on zero, because it doesn't actually align on zero, and you'll see that in this close-up, I've got both zeros, you know, on the right-hand side of the index line. So for the elevation turret, it's just on the right-hand side of the index, and then on the windage turret, it's going to be, you know, if you're looking at the line vertically, not horizontally, it's on the right-hand side as well. So now I know when I double-check that, and I double-check that religiously, and I probably check it more than I should, because I'm so worried that I'm going to knock it out again. Yeah, that's a massive con, because I don't want to be worrying about my rifle, I want to be worrying about, you know, shooting. Now, if I did a different style of hunting, that might be better. So I was taking this stalking. Obviously, you go through the bush, things are brushing up against you, you're getting it knocked around and shit like that. So, you know, it is what it is. Using it for stalking is probably not the best method. However, if you are using it for, you know, you're sitting back and you're glassing, you're doing some long range shooting, you're not really moving around that much, it might be perfectly fine. And it probably would be perfectly fine, because you're not really, you know, you're not banging around, you've got time to make sure that everything's set, and you might even be, you know, adding clicks, you might, you know, range find and go through your data and go, you know, I've got to add 5mm and then add 5mm. All right, talking about it being first focal plane, and once again, for stalking, not very good. It's very finicky with the parallax adjustment, so if you don't have it set to, you know, exactly the amount of meters it is, your reticle is, you know, is out of focus. My first animal I took once I put this on was a fox out on a farm that I was shooting on with a few mates of mine. And it was a complete fluky shot. I sort of went, yeah, I fucking meant to do that. But there was a running fox running away from me up a hill. And then from standing, you know, almost instinctively just like, oh shit, there's a fox, bang, and domed it right in the head. And that was about 60 meters or so. But I did have this cranked up. I think it was sitting on about 10 power at the time, which is pretty fine for this reticle. However, back on 4 power, you pretty much can't see it. And I've missed probably 3 or 4 foxes and a couple of deer, purely because, you know, in that fleeting moment of them coming past and you're up, I fucking can't see. Like, you've got the big thick lines on the edges, but generally they're too far apart to sort of know where the center is, and it's too washed out with all the leaves and shit in the background. You just completely lose it. So unless you're zoomed in anything past, I'd say about 8-ish, that reticle is pretty much useless. I would love to see how the illuminated version goes, whether, you know, I don't know if it's a dot or whether it illuminates the whole reticle, but if it had an illuminated dot in the center on the 4 power and that worked like a normal red dot, that would be mint. But as it is, it's pretty short for how I was using it. Target shooting, perfectly fine, and, you know, all that sort of stuff, it's pretty good. Now, I'm probably going to whack this onto my new old 7mm rem mag. One, because I don't have another sight for it, and two, I've already got this, and I'm going to be doing long range shooting with that, so it probably is going to pair fairly well. I'm just going to find myself a good set of quick disconnect rings, because it does have irons on it as well, and I want to be able to use that. So, Vortex Diamondback Tactical. Pros, the image is very, very good for, especially for, it's a relatively bottom end sight. The image is phenomenal for what it is. It's easy to use with all your dials, actually turn really easily and all that sort of stuff. Great in low light. Cons, exposed turrets, you can knock them out of adjustment. This one in particular doesn't align with the markers, and it never did out of the box. It's heavy, and at zoomed out, being first focal point on how fine that reticle is, it's very hard to see, and has cost me taking some game. We'll probably hit about the 10-minute mark. I don't want to bang on too much about this site because there's 1,000 other reviews out there, but I thought I'd throw in my 5 cents and just give you a bit of a look-see on that. So, in closing points, t-shirts are on sale on our website. Hit the link below. If you want me to do a video on pivot mounts, I will, because it's a topic that's rarely discussed in Australia, and it's something that I would recommend to anyone who likes to be able to take their sight off their weapon. They kick the shit out of normal quick disconnects. So that's all I've got for you. Until next time, hooroo.